Recording in progress.
All right, thank you very much. Thanks for your patience. Today is Monday, July 10th, 2023, and the time now is 6:03. And I will call to order this regular meeting of the Town of Mead Board of Trustees. In accordance with the town's remote participation and remote meeting policy adopted by the Board of Trustees on March 13th, 2023, by resolution number 21-R-2023, today's regular meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting due to the construction in the boardroom. I'd like to remind everyone present, both in person and virtually, of the town's general guidelines for public comment at open meetings and public hearings. Copies of the guidelines are available online. There are 2 public comment opportunities on the agenda for you to address the board on any subject, whether it is on the agenda or not. Mary, roll call please.
Mayor Whitlow.
Here, sorry.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright.
Here.
Trustee Adams. Trustee Broadhead. Trustee Harris. Trustee Parr.
Here.
Trustee Schranz.
Here.
Mayor Whitlow, today is Monday, July 10th, 2023, and you do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Please join me in a moment of silence for loved ones that we have lost. Thank you very much for your time. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next is our review and approve agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening? Okay, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda as is.
Second.
Thank you very much. Roll call please.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright.
Yes.
Trustee Schranz.
Yes.
Trustee Parr.
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you very much. We have an agenda for this evening. I'll turn it over to our town manager for her report.
Thank you, Mayor. Trustees, hold this over here. So you have my report. I did want to highlight a couple of items that I think are important. First of all, I would like to give a shout out to Jason Bradford and our newly revived code enforcement function, which I think is just doing fantastically. Last week, as you all know, I tend to drive around the community a lot and look at things, and the weeds over at Mead Town Center were just driving me crazy, and I spoke to Jason, and he had Carl, our new code enforcement. He worked with the owners, and he has a real soft touch at first. We haven't seen the next phase, but he hasn't had to go there. But he got in touch with them, and I went over there this afternoon, and they're all the weeds are down. It looks fantastic, and I just think it's a good testament to Jason and his leadership, and I think it's really important for the town because we get a lot of code enforcement calls, so you should be proud of that, and I know it's been tough. It's been a really tough position to fill. Then I also would like to mention we're going to see a couple of things tonight that kind of go to one of the core values of the town, which is connected community. I took off on my bicycle today. I wanted to go ride that new piece of trail that runs on the west side of what's the name of that? Rangeview. So I rode out, and it was so nice. And when you get to Adams, the trail is going in along Adams that'll ultimately, and I mean ultimately, we're talking in a couple weeks, connect the Sereno subdivision, and anybody over there can then get on a bike and take 2 routes, basically. They either can go on that one or go on 3rd, and go to the schools and go to Ziggy's. And I just, when we bring up what does development do, it really helps build our trail system, our transportation network that helps connect the communities. And it really kind of touched me riding back there, just because I think that's something we hear all the time from the community, and I think it's really nice. Just to see it all go in and see it all come together. So I encourage you to get on your bikes or walk and get out there. And then finally, I just wanted to point out the 3 events that are gonna be going on between now and our next board meeting, cause we have 3 weeks in between, so we have another meet and greet of the Coyote Run, and we have our last concert this Friday. Hopefully that'll, it won't rain. And then finally, National Night Out, remember, will be the day after our next board meeting on August 1st. So, with that, do you have any questions?
I have noticed that, please note that trustee Adams joined us. So, good evening, sir, thank you for joining us, and does anybody have any questions for Helen?
Good job, Jason.
Yeah, good job, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, I wish I could take credit, it's all Carl. He's great, he does a great job.
Trustee Adams, do you have any questions for Helen tonight? We can see your face. David, do you have any questions or comments?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I do not.
Okay, thanks. Sorry for the delay in getting you into the meeting tonight. Chris, go ahead.
I do have a quick question. Is there a new number to call for code enforcement?
No, you would just call the town hall, just like before.
So if something happens after the town is closed, would we just contact the non-emergency?
Yes, unless it were anything that would be more police related, and then you would go through the normal channels, 911 or.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was clear, cause I don't think that's been put out there.
It's on the website, but I have not made any.
Formal announcement, because I think people still relate the code enforcement to the police department. So, thank you.
Yeah, we can
Okay, we'll make note of
put
that.
something up.
Alright, thank you very much for your time. We'll move on to our informational item tonight. Oh, State Highway 66 pedestrian crossing. Woo-hoo. Alright, update from our town engineer, public works director, Erica Rasmussen. Good afternoon.
Thank you, good afternoon. I've got a quick update here for you today on, we've made some great progress on the 66 and Road 7 head crossing project. Just a little background real quick, as you know, this is a federally funded project. We did get, the total project cost is $3 million, we got $2.4 million, is the federal contribution, and then we have a 20%, $600,000 local match. The goals there are primarily safety, as you all know, that's a dangerous intersection with no pedestrian facilities whatsoever. Connected community, mobility, carbon reduction, and those regional trail connections to the school, and hopefully someday beyond to that Longmont Greenway. So again, as you know, OTAC is under contract for the design. They are our engineering consultant. They've come up with preliminary layouts for both the overpass and the underpass, which I think you've seen before. I've just got some graphics there of what those 2 options could look like. And we have completed all of our alternatives analysis, which is what we're gonna talk about tonight. So that analysis is got multiple aspects to it, and we looked at all these various items that you see on the screen here. What the public experience might be for each of those 2 options, the aesthetics, the grade that has to be maneuvered, what the public perception is of each of those options, safety, what those construction impacts might be. Certainly closing the road for an underpass is much more impactful than the overpass option. Utility conflicts, real estate impacts, the maintenance obligation, and finally the costs. And so I just clipped this out of a much bigger document, mostly just to show you sort of what that looks like, and here's the whole version, but it basically color codes on all of those items that I just mentioned. What green being positive, right, what is the positive, and just for example, that very first one is, the public experience, and, you know, what the grade changes might be related to, the person who's standing at the entrance to it, how do they feel about that, or what the safety aspects might be. So, all of these were analyzed for each of the options, and they're just color coded green to red in various gradations, just from positive to negatives. Okay? And really the big one that everybody always comes down to is the cost option. So I've got the various choices lined up there. We've got the underpass basically at the current Highway 66 width. The ultimate underpass is just slightly larger, that would accommodate some future widening of the underpass. The overpass with a straight approach, the overpass with a switchback approach, and then an overpass with a circular ramp approach. And so the next line there is just the various costs associated with the bulk of the project. The first line is structure, traffic control, landscaping, real estate. And starting at 3.2 for the underpass option, working up all the way to the highest dollar one is 5.7 million for the overpass with the switchback option. Then we have the path approaches to each of those, which would be both north and south, for some varying length, roughly about 1.5 million for those various approaches, and then the total dollar amount on the very bottom line. And you can see that the underpass is the least expensive option at 4.7 million. And so we are moving forward with that underpass option, based on both that analysis and the cost. And so here's just a couple, photographs of other underpasses that our consultant has designed in the past. And, they've done a really nice job with landscaping and, stone features, and sort of depending on budget, you know, we can do anything from minimal to, something much more elaborate, but, just wanted to give you sort of a feel for what we anticipate that might look like, and we'll start advancing the design in that direction. So the next steps here, the outreach events, we have planned to have a booth at both the National Night Out in August and on the Community Day event in September, to where we can share this kind of information as to how the project is moving forward. We will finalize those construction documents, get our final approvals through CDOT later this fall. I'm sure you noticed that the total dollar amount exceeds our $3 million, so we'll be looking for additional grant opportunities to fund the sidewalk extensions on either side to make sure that the underpass is accessible. And then we'll be looking for bidding and construction documents in 24 and 25. So that's all I have for you. Happy to answer any questions.
I'm so disappointed. I'm sorry.
Did you want the overpass?
I want the overpass so bad, for safety reasons mostly.
I did too.
So on the underpass, and my biggest question is the safety measure during the different times of, weather seasons that we have. Lighting, plowing, kind of I think most of the thing is the safety concern that I have with the underpass, well, both, you know, anything that we're gonna do across that highway. The lighting, is that going to be, addressed? And will it be on at dusk to dawn? You know, those are the kind of questions that you know what I mean, and I'm not sure what the difference between a circular and a switchback and all that other stuff that you said in the first couple of slides, and I commend on that, you know, I know you guys are the professionals, but it's just, my whole thing is gonna be the safety of the community, you know, and trying to make sure the kids get to school, you know, all these different things that are gonna happen. especially when it's dark, getting to school, and coming home from school. So those are the kind of questions that I have, just the safety issues. I'm concerned about the landscaping and all this other stuff. But mostly it's going to be the safety of the kids, and families that are gonna take part, going underneath there. So those are my questions. I'm still disappointed. Everything costs so darn much, and I don't know whether to, beg for more money, and for the overpass, or take it what we have now. So those are my questions, and I appreciate your time tonight. So I'm gonna open it up to the trustees. Questions, comments? Please make sure that you use
Your question about lighting, are you talking about lighting inside the underpass?
well, I'm going
itself?
back to the reason why I'm going back, if you read, Daniel, could you bring back the slide presentation? And the second to the last one that has the picture of the people coming through, there you go, that one right there. And I've been through the St. Vrain, I ran that, I've biked through it, some of them are nice, some of them are not so nice. I've done it through the day, during the night, and not all of those pathways are lit underneath these, under Pratt, under, all those other areas. So those are the questions I was asking about, cause I've been there and traveled that green belt. So those are the things that I'm concerned about mostly, and, what we do, to keep people safe. That's another avenue. How are we gonna get our police down there to get, there's something going on, how do we get, our chief and the officers down there to, if there's something going on down there that shouldn't be going on. So, those are the questions that I have. It's just primary safety. I know it's gonna be a beautiful thing at the very end of the day. Those are my questions, and so.
Yeah, could I take a moment?
Sure.
To address some of those things? Okay, so I would fully expect in this photo, you can see there's some lighting on the inside of that tunnel. I would fully expect that to be incorporated into the project. And certainly we can look at, regular light pole as that approaches as well. Danielle, if you could go back to the first, spot, keep going, right there. So one of the nice things about, our particular site is it's a relatively straight shot through there, right? And so this alignment here on the bottom is fairly straight. And these contour lines here, I know it's kinda hard to see, but, it's basically the landscape is laid back. It's not a wall, that whole length, so it feels much more open, it's much more visible from the road. And, you could drive, the police could drive on that, trail, they could drive right down to it. They'd have to hop the curb, but I'm sure they don't mind doing that. This is a little more challenging, right? This would be a circular, large ramp that would go over the top and back down the other way. The switchback option is even more circuitous than that, where you would have maybe 8 switchbacks to get up to that point. And so certainly that would be more challenging. You couldn't do it in a car. And we would have to have some specialty equipment from a maintenance standpoint, in order to even plow that off.
So can you talk about the overpass on a straight? Would it be the same as the underpass?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there could be, that's true.
Okay.
I just didn't have a picture of that one, but you're right, there could be a straight approach as well. Similar to going under, would just be a straight approach going over. We still have an issue a little bit just in terms of maintenance obligations, is a little bit different, it's open to the elements, you can't just push snow off over onto the highway, right? So it's a little more elaborate. They wouldn't let it, yeah, so it's just a little bit more elaborate from that standpoint, but similarly, you could drive right up it.
But one thing I do wanna throw in on the maintenance, so this is gonna be part of our regional trail system, as you know, and it is our obligation. So as like when we have big snowstorms, we get out and plow the regional trail, and this will be part of it, and we'll figure our way forward. Lighting, it will be lit at night, because people will use this as a transportation network, not just in the day for for pleasure. So we treat this as if it's just as much of a priority as a road and has the safety of a roadway, and that all of those things will come into play, whether the police could access it. We also don't wanna make it too accessible because you don't want people driving through it. So we'll have to have bollards that can be removed if the police need to go in. You always have to strike a balance between, you know, safety and accessibility for hooliganism, you know, that can occur, so.
And I think you mentioned, did you mention storm or ice? There would be drains at the bottom of this. The inside of the underpass, it would be sloped to one side and there'd be like a little swale, so that any water that did get in there is channeled to the edge and out to an inlet. But at each end of the underpass is a drain, so that any water that was running down the trail approaching it would get into that before it gets in underneath.
So that it is, the underpass itself is subterranean, so it's, the road will remain at the elevation that it's at, and this will go under it.
Yes.
And I think you may have answered my other question about drainage, especially in light of heavy rains and stuff like that. We see things where these things get flooded with water, and they become pretty much useless at that point until the water drains. Okay, that's it, thanks. Okay.
David, do you have any questions for Erica? Here's your jams. Erica, are you confident that this is good? The underpass choice?
I am confident,
Okay,
yes.
that's all I need to know, that's all I care about.
And Erica, tell her how much I push for the overpass.
Yeah, that's true. Helen and I have been, warring factions here for a while, cause I know she really wanted it as well, and it would have made a really nice statement.
Right.
And just, I think dollar wise, it's not feasible.
So my question is, if we come to the part that the $3 million, which we are 2.4 and we've allocated 600 and we need more, if we don't get the federal funds that we need to complete the project, will the board, or will you come back to the board to ask money to come to finish the project? I'd hate to have something started and not finished. So in what time period would that be, since construction would be in 2 years, two-ish, you know? So that, I'm just looking forward to, you know, if we don't get it, if the federal funding is not, or state funding, or whatever funding, then will we have to allocate money from our general fund or transportation
Well,
fund?
it would be from the transportation fund, which has a reasonable amount of reserve in it. We would come back to the board for that, but the question will become, do you have the patience to wait? And the waiting game is generally, as you know, costs go up with time.
Right.
So it would be one of those, do we wanna put in another 200,000 and make it now, or go back to the well? I would argue this project is, of any project that we've ever done here, Eric and I, hits about every check mark for federal funding, from multimodal to greenhouse gas reduction to safety. So the chances are getting more money would be good. The problem is to try to go for 2 million more for the overpass would probably be stretching it, cause they're gonna wanna look for the most cost effective.
Right, I
But
understand.
we would come back as early as this fall, once we have really good numbers, you know, these are still conceptual numbers. Once we know what right-of-way costs are, all the things that we have to do, depending where we are on it, we'll come back to the board with the options, but I'm really confident. We've already started looking at opportunities, so when you have a project that's mostly funded, designed and shovel-ready, it's like the favorite, I think, Congresswoman Caraveo might be interested, there's plenty of opportunities, but
Right.
at the end of the day, if we get that far and we're that short by a little much, we'd come back and ask for more.
Cause that intersection is very dear to my heart.
Yes.
Cause I've been working on this for a long time. So project phasing or project on both the intersection widening or reconstruction of that intersection and this project go hand in hand or will not?
You're talking about the CDOT
Yeah.
project and the
Yeah.
Mead Place project, so, I guess the answer is it depends. The Mead Place project is probably going to be starting soon, which has to happen regardless, in advance of CDOT's overlay project. So sort of depending on, the timing of when CDOT would be ready, I would love for them to wait until we do this before they do their overlay. If for some reason, they're waiting on their traffic signal poles, and if they're like a 9-month lead time or something, and so you just never really know when those things show up. So, my hope is it takes longer for once, and, then it would make sense for all parties to coordinate those things so they happen at the same time.
Okay. I mean, I'd rather have this project move forward
For sure.
sooner than rather.
Right, I just meant for
Yeah.
their part to be delayed a little bit so that
Right,
they aren't ahead of us.
right, okay.
It would finish off more nicely if we could get the underpass in, and then they have to do an acceleration lane
Right.
eastbound,
Mhm.
or westbound. And then they also have to do some improvements to, County Road 7. And in order to get that done and get the signal in and do the overlay, it just would make a nicer, cleaner project if all that could be done afterwards. But since we've been waiting for 6 years to get this intersection done, if we see the whites of their eyes, they're doing the intersection because we can't kick them out if they're ready to go.
Alright, good. Sorry to have so many questions. Yeah, just,
Awesome.
Yeah.
The other thing I would just add is, we do have this Mead Place development, we also have the fire department and the library on the south end. And so kind of depending on where those things, those projects could pick up some of these costs related to the sidewalk approaches on
Right.
each side. And so we kind of just have to see where those puzzle pieces fit in terms of timing, but I think there's a couple opportunities there still for additional money coming to that.
alright, good. Thank you. Anything else, guys?
If everything falls into place perfectly, hoping, and CDOT gets delayed and we get started, is there any hope that CDOT would work with us to complete this project and bring it in at a lower cost? Or are they just, we're building over the top of it, whether it's there or not?
Well, we're working as a team with CDOT. As you know, the grant that the mayor got many, many years ago is the money CDOT's actually using,
Okay.
along with money from the developer. So, we're not like, get off my land, you varmint. We're very much, they are fully integrated into our team as far as the design of this goes.
Okay.
So, and they know, they too want this all to work together. It's just like when we're talking about gaps, if we were at a year, we'd be way better off to proceed with the schedule right now that CDOT has, which is to get that signal in late this fall and then do the intersection, the overlay next year. But when you have a patch of a 600-foot acceleration lane, it's so much cleaner to do your overlay and mix it all together.
Sure.
But then once all that's done, then punching in the underpass, it just would make the project cleaner. And they'll work with us on it. I think they'll delay the overlay, to coincide with the whole project.
That contract is already awarded for the CDOT
Mhm.
work.
Oh, okay.
But that contractor would certainly bid, and this would maybe be very attractive for them. I don't know if Brandon the contractor? I think Brandon is, so they may be interested in it.
I was wondering if that was ever pitched as, hey, if you guys are doing this, why don't you dig us a big hole?
Yeah, we did talk about it many times, and the timing of the money always seemed to
Yeah.
mix things up.
Yeah, talking about money, I know. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Well,
Peter
Alright, next is our proclamation for Parks and Recreation Month, July 2023. And thanks to our community engagement team led by Lorelei. We've had a lot going on this summer. I forgot to ask one of the trustees, to, read the proclamation for the Parks and Recreation Month, so I will ask for a volunteer to read.
I got
Who
it.
gets it first?
I got it.
Okay.
Let me make it just a smidgen smaller so I can actually read it. There it is. Proclamation for Parks and Recreation Month, July 2023. Whereas Parks and Recreation programs are an integral part of the communities throughout this country, including Mead, Colorado. And whereas our Parks and Recreation are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of our life in communities, ensuring the health of all citizens and contributing to the economics and environmental well-being of a community and region. And whereas Parks and Recreation are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of our life in our communities, ensuring the health of all, can I repeat that one? I did. Okay, skipping ahead. Parks and Recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease, provide therapeutic recreation services for those who are mentally or physically disabled, and also improve the mental and emotional health of all citizens. And whereas Parks and Recreation programs increase a community's economic prosperity through the increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas Parks and Recreation areas are fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community. And whereas Parks and Natural Recreation areas improve water quality, protect groundwater, prevent flooding, improve the quality of the air we breathe, provide vegetative buffers to development, and produce habitat for wildlife. And whereas our Parks and Natural Recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of the community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the town of Mead recognizes the benefits derived from the Parks and Recreation resources, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees that July is recognized as Parks and Recreation Month in the town of Mead, signed the hand and seal of the town of Mead, Colorado, on this 10th day of July 2023.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the signing of this proclamation?
I motion to approve the signing.
Second.
Thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Trustee Park,
Yes.
trustee Schranz,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright,
Yes.
trustee Adams,
yes,
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, motion passed. Excuse me.
Without the
Proclamation.
repetitive.
Yes, it's okay, it's alright. Alright, the next is our first public comment of the evening. The board welcomes public comment for any item, whether it is on the agenda or not. The board will listen to your comments and take them into consideration. If you desire a conversation, please email the board or town manager or attend a monthly coffee with the mayor. If you wish to speak during this public comment period, please adhere to the town's general guidelines. Please start by stating your full name and address for the record. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the Board of Trustees. If you're representing a group, you will have 5 minutes. If you wish to address the board, please indicate by raising your hand and we'll call on you. Alright, seeing none, we'll move on to our consent agenda for the night. The consent agenda contains items which are considered routine and are approved with one motion and vote. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I will second.
Thank you very much. Roll call please, Mary.
Trustee Adams,
yes,
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright,
Yes.
trustee Schranz,
Yes.
trustee Park,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you, motion carries. We'll move on to our new business for this evening. Resolution number 51-R-2023. This will be introduced by Town Engineer, Public Works Director, Erica Rasmussen. Hello.
Hi again. So this item before you tonight is for the contract with Wilson and Company. They are our on-call engineering firm for the 1601 interchange study related to I-25 and County Road 38. As you know, there's a 5-mile stretch on I-25 where there is no interchange between County Road 34 and State Highway 56, which is County Road 44. And the I-25 segment 5 widening project is only replacing the 38 bridge. They're not actually adding the interchange portions of that. So this analysis that needs to be completed, demonstrates that need to Federal Highway Administration and CDOT. And if approved, then that, project could be eligible for federal dollars for construction as well. And ideally, if all goes well, we'd be able to combine efforts with CDOT when they're doing their construction work in 25 to 28. So Wilson, as I mentioned, is our on-call firm selected for this work. This task order before you tonight is for $1,085,100. There's no cost to the town at this time. This will be passed through to the Turion developer, just like other typical development review type costs. And that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions, comments? David, do you have any questions or comments for Erica?
No, I do not.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this. Thank you for the work that we've been working on this for a long, long time. And is there a motion regarding resolution number 51-R-2023?
I move to adopt resolution 51R-2023, a resolution of the Town of Mead, Colorado approving a special project task order with Wilson and Company Incorporated to perform engineering and consulting services for the 1601 CR 38 interchange project for an amount not to exceed $1,085,100.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, roll call please, Mary.
Trustee Park,
Yes.
trustee Trans,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright,
Yes.
trustee Adams,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you very much. Keep our fingers crossed we get it approved. I know. We have no further general business for this evening, so this brings us to our second regular public comment period. We will follow the same guidelines previously stated. Would anyone like to comment at this time? Please raise your hand. All right, seeing none, elected official reports. Any trustees want to report on anything?
I was going to, but I did it on Saturday, so I
Okay.
was gonna talk about CML and that, but that was done.
Chris?
Nothing.
Chris?
No.
David, do you have anything?
No, I do not, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. The only thing I have to say is thank you very much for staff and the board of trustees for a great retreat this last Saturday. I appreciate everybody's time. I know it's hard to take time away from your families to do this, but it's important that we get on the same page as we move forward for our budgets and our priorities and goals. So thank you very much for your time. I look forward to Cornhole and the last concert of the night this Friday night. And I will be turning 60 on Saturday. It was a huge day Saturday, so thank you very much for being in my life. So anyway, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Before I put that motion out, happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, happy birthday, Mayor.
Now I will motion to adjourn.
I will second.
Thank you very much. Roll call please, Mary.
Trustee Adams,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright,
Yes.
trustee Trans,
Yes.
trustee Parr,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. All right, the July 10th, 2023 regular meeting of the Board of Trustees is now adjourned at 6:42. Thank you very much, everyone. Please drive home safely.